guys, Stephanie Daly with Stephen Daly Construction, and we are finally at the finish line over here at Wayne Manor. One of the things that I want to talk to you about today is the glass railing that we chose for this particular project, the options that you have available if you want to use a glass railing in your house, and some of the tips and tricks that I learned during the build. Today's video is sponsored by Viewrail. Let's get going. In this house, we have a very contemporary feel. The style in this home is a little more modern, and honestly, there are a few standout showpieces throughout the house that we did not want to interrupt. One of those being the main fireplace that you see as you enter into the home. Now, right as you come into the front door, this main staircase is the first thing that greets you. So we wanted to make sure that we had something that not only didn't interrupt our view of looking straight through the outside of the house and seeing these gorgeous fireplaces, but also something that felt light and airy and not really heavy inside of a contemporary space like this. We chose to go with a glass railing system, and we have glass railings throughout the entire home. We have a couple different mounting options, so I want to walk you through why we did what we did in different spaces, and also just kind of walk you through the process of getting these installed, because there were a few things that I learned through the process that I think will help you if you're looking at installing glass railings in your home. First off, we chose to do a laminated glass. And what this means is we were able to get rid of the handrail cap across the top of the glass itself. Now, we do have a handrail cap on the areas that we need it for code, but in all the other areas, we chose to go without a handrail cap to try and keep this really light and kind of unobstructed view into the rest of the spaces. The glass upgrade that we did was the laminated glass. There are different glass thickness options. There are also different glass color options, which we'll be able to show you on this project. But we do have the laminated glass throughout the entire job. We wanted to make sure that we were able to keep that handrail cap off the top of this railing throughout the majority of the house. So I want to walk you guys around this side of the staircase and talk to you a little bit about how these are mounted and why we chose the system that we did. On this house, we weren't entirely sure from the beginning if we wanted to do radiant heat throughout the house. But one of the things that we have to think about if we are using radiant heat is mounting to the floor itself. So a base track, there are some options that offer a base track or some talons that are little kind of lower floor mounts that'll hold the glass directly on the floor. We chose not to do that for a few reasons, but one of them being we have a tile floor throughout the entire house. These are really large tiles, and so we wanted to make sure that we were taking into account how durable is this tile? Do we want to be drilling a bunch of holes into it? Do we want to risk breaking some of these tiles at this stage? And honestly, it was more of an aesthetic choice. So we chose to go with the pin mount system. These are all mounted to the side of the skirting or the side of the apron, which allows us to really have kind of that seamless look. We're not seeing any of the hardware on the floor as we walk in. Now, the glass pins do mount to the face. Like I said, we've got them mounted to the apron and our skirts, just depending on location. And then we have these great little H clips that hold the glass panels together. This has been a really nice little addition to the glass. It keeps everything nice and straight, level. It also is great in the corner areas. We have a piece where we have two sheets of glass meeting in the corner. Viewrail has supplied us with a really great H-clip that's more of a pivoting clip that allows them to put it on the corner ends. So it just gives it that little bit of stability, helps us line up these panels if there's any imperfections in the way they're mounted, and really gives us that seamless look as we flow through. So as we're looking from the front door in, we are not really seeing a whole lot of these pins. We can see them in the background of how this is mounted, but right here from the entry, it just feels like sheet glass flowing all the way through, which really helps as we're talking about making sure that we're not interrupting this incredible view. We've got this great main floor fireplace that you're seeing right as you enter. And then we're looking right out to the exterior. One of the really cool things about this is we did this exact same railing on the outside of the house. So as we look through these big glass doors into the back, that back deck also has the sheet glass on it. So it's not obstructing the exterior view of the swimming pool and all that we have going on out there. Let's walk down this staircase. I want to give you an up-close detailed view of these pins and how they really mount, and talk through a little bit of details that you want to think about early on as you're prepping the house with your blocking for this railing that's not going to get installed for months after you're at that point. So let's go check it out up close, look at some of those details, and talk through what you should be planning early on. We have these great hidden or recessed skirts and aprons throughout the house. We did this amazing fry raglet detail where our drywall and all of our trim material are flush to one another. But as you're doing that, you have to think about, how does that affect things like this railing down the road? Because we don't have proud stair skirts, we had to really think about how this railing was going to mount. The same thing holds true for these aprons. This is all flush. So we have to make sure our tile on the main floor doesn't have much of an overhang so that it's not actually running into these glass panels below, and we can give that nice seamless look. We did plan with Viewrail ahead of time before we planned any of our finished carpentry material. We really wanted to make sure that all of these pins were mounted directly to the finished carpentry. We didn't have one pin on the apron and one pin on the drywall. So getting some measurements from them ahead of time so that we knew what this distance was. You'll notice our glass railing ends with our fry raglet detail. And that wasn't just on coincidence. That is because we had planned that ahead of time to make sure that we had this detail taken into account. As we're doing the blocking, we want to make sure that when we're framing this staircase, we have a few layers of solid blocking behind here. Viewrail will give you the details of exactly how much blocking they want in any one of these spaces, but we have 2 layers of LVL behind both our aprons and our skirts to make sure that these pin mounts that are really holding the entire weight of the sheet of glass are bolted into something solid, and they have that blocking that'll hold them up, not have any issues down the line. You can expect when you're installing these pins, especially when you're installing them into a finished carpentry piece like this, that you're going to get some nail pops. We do finish screws as we're installing all of this stuff instead of nails. So it is not uncommon to get a few nail pops in the finished trim. But the great thing about that is you can install the pin mounts, come through, touch up all the finished carpentry, then get the glass panels set. So it gives you enough time to kind of have that touch-up period in between. And really, they can get all these pins mounted throughout the entire space before they actually start setting the railing. They'll test it out, make sure you have even reveals, make sure everything looks nice and clean and straight. But that gives you the opportunity to come through and clean those up before you put the glass panels on, because at that point, you've only got about 1.5 inches behind these pins to work with. So it's good to plan that ahead of time and make sure that you have someone around that can touch those up in the event that you do end up with a nail pop. Walk down into the showroom. I want to show you guys some of the options that you have available if you're going to do a tinted laminated glass, and also a little bit different hardware option because we chose some different colors in that space to fit the vibe. So we had to wait a few days before we came down here in the showroom because we just refinished these floors. But this is a piece that you had to see. So we did the same glass railing that we did throughout the rest of the house, just with a handful of different options. So in this case, because of the style and vibe of this space, we chose to go with the smoked glass. We did black hardware, so we have black handrail cap, and we also have our black pins. Now, this railing is the same as far as features go, so we still did the laminated glass. We didn't have to do the handrail cap across all the top, and we have our little black hardware H-clips throughout. But this railing is a perfect addition to this space. It's moody, it's smoky, it really fits in with the rest of the vibe of the showroom down here. And then additionally, in this space, we actually did the Viewrail monostringer stair system. And we chose to do the red oak treads with a black stain. Again, just keeping with the vibe of this space. And these turned out really beautiful. I will say a few of the things that I love about the Viewrail stair systems are during construction, when we install the monostringer, we still need to be able to use these stairs and get people down in here to work. Viewrail actually ships these temporary engineered treads that you can put on top of the monostringer. That way you're able to continue to use this staircase. People can get down to the space safely and you're not damaging your final treads. Then when you get to the point where you're ready to install your final treads, they actually ship protection tread covers with their treads. So I think it's just that extra little bit of care and that extra attention to detail, knowing that one, this staircase is going to need to be used during construction, but two, at the end, when we're ready to put the finished materials in, we still have a little bit of work to do. So them supplying the tread covers that we can put over the top of these treads at the time that we install them to make sure that we keep this space looking beautiful when it gets to this point where the homeowners are ready to move in. Now let's go outside, check out what we got going on out there. We have a little bit different railings in some locations, some different mounting styles depending on what we needed to do. So let's go back to a couple days ago and check out the outside. So we've made it through all the options and all the different things that we have inside the house. And now I want to bring you outside. We do have a few different types of railing outside. And that's one of the things to really keep in mind is how are they going to mount? And you may end up in a situation where you end up with two different mounting styles. But I want to show you how well those flow together and that it really doesn't matter which direction you choose. Whichever works perfect for the project is really going to be best. So you got to think about a few things. So first, we have this big walkout staircase. This is concrete foundation wall planters. So these planters are 9 inches wide. And as we were looking through our railing options for this space, one of the things that we thought about was if we pin mount these railings on this side, because on the inside we have stair treads, wouldn't allow us to pin mount very well inside there. So if we pin mount outside here, some of the issues that we would have had were from the edge of the stair treads to the actual handrail cap on the railing, we would have had about a 9-inch gap to the foundation, which is where the pins would start, and then about another 1.5 inches to where the glass actually sits. So just would have felt really awkward, really wouldn't have functioned very well. So we decided in this particular location that we wanted to use this base rail. This does add a little more hardware. It looks a little heavier than the pins do, but it still gives you a really seamless look with the glass panels in between. And because we have a handrail cap across all of this glass, you don't need to upgrade to the laminated glass in this location. Now, all of these glass railings, doesn't matter which one you choose, they're all going to be tempered glass. They'll all meet code, but in the event where we actually don't have the handrail cap over the top of them, that's where we've used the laminated glass. So, able to save a little bit of money in this location by not using the laminated. The black base rail and handrail honestly blends really well. We have all these black windows throughout the entire house. So it's not something that stands out. It's not an obstruction. And it really gives you a much easier grasp as you're walking up this staircase. You can really make sure that railing's close. If someone really needs it, it's comfortable to use. And the style and design of this turned out to be absolutely wonderful. So we have a bunch more railings up top. Let's walk up to this deck, check out the outdoor pin mounted railings, and talk through some of the blocking requirements for the exterior decks as we wrap this up. So as we come up this back staircase, we have the base mounted rail that continues underneath the deck running into the side of the house. And then as we get to this main deck, we transitioned back to the pin mount railing system. On the outside, we chose to keep with that black hardware because it does match a lot of the black siding and the black windows. So we kept with the black pins. In this case, we actually had these stair stringers and treads custom made by a local fabricator so that we could pour all of our treads with solid concrete. So they actually built these metal trays. We were able to have our flat work contractor come in and pour concrete inside of all of them. And then the fabricator actually created these bolt locations that we were able to mount the pins into while the concrete was fresh. So I love the way this design turned out. Viewrail does offer some exterior stair stringers, exterior stair options. In this case, the homeowner really wanted a very specific style. So that's why we had those custom made, but it's great how you can have that custom fabrication really incorporate well with the railings from Viewrail and not have any issues with those. The communication back and forth was great between them, and the fabricator that actually built the staircase is also the Viewrail installer. So that made it a whole lot easier here locally in Utah. We do have our handrail caps. One of the things I will mention is we're noticing these black handrail caps out here on the exterior are getting really hot. That is something that I would probably do differently, and something that we may end up swapping out is changing these handrail caps to wood. Even the stainless steel option is going to get a little warm outside here. A wood option would feel a lot softer. It would be a lot cooler. It wouldn't absorb the heat quite as much. But with the south and west sun on the back of this house, these black railings do get a little toasty in the middle of the day. Something to think about. That is something that I absolutely didn't think about when we were planning this. I just thought, oh, the black's gonna match perfectly with the house, which it does, but it gets a little hot. Last thing I wanna talk about out here is blocking. We talked about it early on the inside of the house. The same holds true for out here. We need to make sure that all of these decks are framed with enough blocking behind them that these pins can actually bolt in and it can hold the weight of the glass. These glass panels are heavier than you would expect. So just make sure as you're walking through your pre-designed drawings with Viewrail that you are really focusing on the amount of blocking that's needed so that you can get it installed ahead of time and not have to come back and tear things apart afterward to add additional blocking in. We ended up having to do that in a couple locations because we just had some weird corners of glass that honestly the framing of the deck wasn't structural on that side or whatever it may be. You just need to make sure you're installing that blocking so that you have that all taken care of and you're not worried about how is this going to mount and is it going to be able to hold the weight in the future. Honestly, I think overall this glass railing turned out beautiful both inside and out. It gave us exactly what we were looking for, unobstructed views. It is going to be a little bit of a maintenance because you're going to have to make sure this glass stays clean. As you can see, we have handprints and a little bit of water spots on it from install, but overall, I think this is going to turn out really amazing. The homeowners are going to love having that unobstructed view. Really light railings, but also very functional railings. And overall, I think it turned out beautiful. You guys know you can follow me on social media at Stephanie Builds It and go over, check out Viewrail's website. You can learn more information about the different hardware colors they offer, different types of railing. They have lots of other stuff besides glass, lots of other options for stair treads and stair stringers. Comes to LED lighting, they've learned to integrate that. So they have a lot of great options on their website and tons of stuff you can choose from. You can just contact them online and they will get you a bid and get you a local installer in your area. That's it for this house. You guys, we're ready to hand the keys over to the homeowners, and I have absolutely loved working on this one. It's hard to see it go, but we're excited for the next one. We'll see you guys next time on The Build Show.